Hello, we've got a game here. We're on Rotated Nix's I, Team 1 ANS, Team 2 OSP, 3K 5v5. Team 1's Pyro, Mango, Warclops, Persons, and Mechanaut. Team 2, Corbeau, Hunter, Spadicy, Xenophon, and Puppy. Looks like OSP is shaping up to go through the middle of the map. ANS is kind of spreading out a little bit more. They're also focused in the middle of the map. We have a pretty colossal voice chat here. Yeah, we had to mute during that for a little bit because people were talking about all sorts of stuff that does here as well, and so everybody's simping after his opinion for everything. So let's undeafen and see if there's actually stuff going on in there.
It's just a Fresnel shader. There's no texture, actually.
Yeah, that's sort of what I mean, yeah. I don't know the terminology.
Yeah, because you can destroy the terrain and it's sort of just, it seems seamless.
God, that's a lot of
Okay.
ships.
Drop down here with the ANS team. We got Mechanaut, who's got a 450, a beam, and a S3 and S3H. With 3 sprinters, presumably also with S3s.
You know,
yeah.
I love that the Ocello gets the ball device so you can pretend to be a Solomon.
ANS only has 2 capital ships.
Hey.
Persons has some gun sprinters with the defenders, and this one's on them. Presumably for offense? No, just chaff boxes. Okay, Pyrope is rocking. What the fuck? Pyrope has missile ships. That's not very common. It's modified yes-sac.
This has gotta be the lowest tonnage fleet I've ever seen Pyrope in.
Getting a little bit of harassment there from Master. Nice. Let's see how well that goes. I mean, she's kind of okay with missiles, but she doesn't use cruise that much. She uses like well, she does use cruise, but it's very close range cruise, so I don't know how she does with the up fleets. We'll see. Mango's got a missile destroyer, pretty ballin', with some gun defender and chat box, I believe. No shuttles here. Offensive S1. Sprinters, man, I've been calling it really bad on what's in the VLS ones today. Warclops has one 450 Axford with an S3H backpack. One support. Sarissa on a sprinter? I've never seen that. Okay.
You know, my bullseye sprinters used to bring a Sarissa just to shoot other people's missiles.
Nice.
I mean, it's like I've toyed with that idea before, actually.
And
but
then
like,
the
I
power
always look at the after action.
120 reigns.
Yeah. I mean, if you run without radar, though, it works. But, like, man, I'd always look at the after action report.
Can we not?
And they never... What?
Just yammer about builds?
I'm more surprised there's a Sarissa at all, not that there's a Sarissa on a Sprinter.
Got Corbeau rocking the monitor fleet.
The enemy is securing zone.
Triple
plasma liner fleet?
Yes, Hunter is in triple plasma liner. This is the most meta build you can bring in test right now. Funnily enough, it's actually not going to pay off that well for him, since ATIS doesn't have that many capital ships. I mean, these will tear apart the Axfords.
All those ships, and they only got 2 cruisers.
Yeah.
No battleships, sad.
Puppy has 3 mass driver liners.
And an LRT. I wonder what he cut to actually have an LRT, because normally Puppy just has the triple plasma liners.
The enemy is securing zone.
They're skeletonized.
They're mass drivers, not plasma.
Or,
yeah, that's what I said.
Thank you. It's very late.
Corner cutters.
Spadicy has 450 solo. 250 tugs, bastions, rocket shuttles, Unifon, missiles, T-30. Dead fleet. Okay, Unifon's dead fleet.
Oh, the plasma liners do have some T-20s on them, so they do have some 100 mils.
Yep. Plasma 100.
Yeah, that's how it works. It's plasma and 100.
You know, there's someone in this channel who's extremely vocal about me turning off the dual-purpose flag on Grape, but people seem to like it and use it a lot.
I mean, there's a button for point defense turret called dedicated.
Yeah.
Yep. And Grape knows the reason why it's there.
You know, like, You can just do that.
But you'd have to know how to read though.
The enemy secured zone comet.
That
That's
is
a big
asking a
ask.
lot of the player base, to be fair.
You don't actually need to be able to read to play Nebulous. You just need to be able to make sense of a bunch of lines.
You're not true. That's yeah.
You can
Isn't that what reading
differentiate
is?
between
Making sense of lines?
No,
yellow, green,
making
and
sense
red.
of lines that form letters, but these are just like geometries.
Oh.
I guess
But
if you
isn't a
learn what
letter a
each button
geometry?
does, yeah.
What the fuck is he talking about, by the way?
The enemy is securing zone dagger.
Although
I mean, the
rock
UI,
is
like,
really-
you do have to read, sort of, I guess.
I mean,
But,
you know
maybe
what?
not.
Enemy
When
secured
I was a
zone
kid, I
Atlas.
used to actually play a Japanese version of Pokemon on the N64.
What?
I can't read kanji, right? But like, we just figured out how to play the game. Despite that.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that
Ooh.
makes sense. Okay, so here we're seeing the strength of the plasma liner. Kind of
The
tearing
enemy
apart
is
these
securing zone
sprinters
boxer.
with their 100 mil and the mass driver support as well. Plasma occasionally lands and deals damage, but it's the grape. Even unbuffed. Well, let's check these T20s. Are they unbuffed? E-Rakes. Yeah, they're unbuffed. It's just the E-Rakes for the plasma. And he's not even like full greeted the
Those
plasma
sprinters
either.
on A.
He's got a lot of restores in DC. These are really beefy. These are really strong.
The enemy secured zone dagger.
Plasma, of course, not able to actually land on a fast sprinter, which is pretty funny.
The poor sprinters on A just absolutely.
That is just
annihilated.
so much firepower.
Or sprinters.
That
Wow,
is that is so much firepower.
that's
Yeah,
insane.
so a problem that
The enemy is
this
securing
fleet
zone
would
boxer.
have
Missiles?
back in the day is ammo count. They would have a hard time affording it, but because plasma's so cheap now, they can afford it.
Yeah.
Pretty easy.
Grape over pen.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, OSP definitely did just concentrate most of its forces around the A points.
Well,
It's just
so-
so much firepower.
This is what I was talking about in the lobby when we were talking about the difference between Nexus design and rotated Nexus design normally, and Lobster talked about this some too, is that players will split off and you'll either get a really hard D push or a really hard Bravo push. But everybody stays away from Alpha because it's like, oh, it's too open. It's too open. There's not enough cover here. But when you rotate it, it looks a lot more
Yeah.
covered from the tactical map, and so people will push onto it. And
Yeah, there's
it'll-
definitely a monkey brain thing going on.
yeah, yeah,
It's
Yep.
that's what I was talking
Yeah, it's
about.
because of that rock
The
on the
enemy
far right.
secured
It
zone
like it
boxer.
really looks more closed off now.
The donut hole.
Yep.
No, bro. When you rotate it, it like improves the feng shui, bro.
Also that.
And so
Right, see, and now see, there's like a little scout fight on
God.
Delta instead of
Just
normally the scout
look at
fight's on Alpha instead of the
Damn,
main
that
fight
thing was splattered.
Yeah, Delta's just having a skirmish.
with
mean,
a
I
couple
feel like,
rocket shuttles.
Hybrid missile strike would take out some of these skeletons.
Yeah, missile corvettes versus rocket shuttles. Let's see who ends up on top.
Nothing can stand up to that level of fire. The sprinter on A is just like
sprinters.
Yo, I
every
think
single.
about it.
It's just like instant.
I think
Yeah,
the
Pyro
Pyro would melt pretty quick
playing
there
for
too.
missiles.
All right, here come the
Almost-
missiles.
Looks like they got jammers on them.
Boosted self
Yep.
spraying jammers.
Yes.
That's a lot of BSSJ. I don't know about that.
That's expensive.
Like a couple
That is a
BSSJ
very
is really
poorly
strong.
timed
but
explosion.
That's
Oh,
like
it's A right
4.
there coming to the.
Oh, and they're getting great
No
budget Sarissa.
stage fire. Oh,
Oh yeah.
what's
Oh,
the
they're
staging
going
range on these?
everywhere.
It's so short.
A lot of hits though.
And a
Doesn't
little
need to be big.
damage.
Yeah,
You're
but
right.
the
They're
first
pretty
one,
weak.
Cow Gaming.
Disable the C90.
2K.
Yeah.
But then there needs to be a follow-up to those missiles, otherwise all that damage is going to be repaired.
Very quickly.
You know, the cool thing about Plasma 100 mil is that it lets you take both the optimal anti-capital ship weapon and the optimal light ship weapon in the same fleet.
Same ship.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the trick for the capitals to counter the plasma is to maintain distance and kite them. Otherwise, they will die fast.
isn't plasma like 8 kilometers?
But the thing
8.5.
is, yeah, is it kind of adds up pretty quick.
Yeah, and like optimal 450 range is like 8 kilometers, and then plasma's fine at 8.5, and so it's not even. It's not an even fight.
Gotta be
Hey,
dodging for
yeah.
your life against that stuff.
How does plasma work, or how does bombshells work with plasma capitals?
As soon as that armor gets to a low enough value, that whole ship is just gonna cheese grater.
Yeah, bombs will go through. I mean, plasma just degrades
Uh-oh.
armor. There's no like special mechanic
Oh, damn.
for bombs.
So there's one missile going into a rock.
Well, I think the Acello just sucked up all of Pyro's missiles, and the tugs dealt with them.
There's one in the nose there.
At this rate, Pyrop's going to be Winchester in like 2 more minutes.
He has to.
She's
There's no
not the
choice
most
here.
patient.
Oh yeah,
She,
you're
like
right.
tactically, like there's nothing like because of how much OSP has committed to this fight. The only chance that she has to save the Axford, all the other cap ships here is to do as much as she can against this death ball to give her team enough of a chance to maybe win.
No.
She has to.
You can just leave.
No.
You can just leave.
You just leave this. You don't
Yeah.
spend munition on this, because all the damage that these Volkers are taking are just going to get repaired. Like
Not
we
if
were
the
saying
Axfords
earlier.
can win. If the Axford can win,
They can't.
But it can't.
Not
They
as
can't.
much.
Yeah, I play a lot of Axfords, and this isn't a fight. This Axford's gonna win.
Yeah,
like
everybody, all of ANS needs to leave this and play around it.
Yeah, you break up, you go after the caps at the edge of the map, and you see if you can shave off something that's on its own, like one of the Xenophon's dad monitors, or you try to degrade the sensor network so you can make better use of jamming, although this fleet generally didn't bring that much jamming.
These are pretty low damage missiles too. They're not really doing anything.
Yeah. They have a lot of money put into pin aid and not much damage.
Yeah, that's the problem with pen aids, is that like, yeah, if you put too much money into them, then it's like there's no point in bringing the missile anymore because you're not doing the damage that you need to do.
Is this Mango's fleet?
Oh,
No, we're talking about fire-ups.
The enemy is securing zone Boxer.
Yeah, she's
Like
basically
at
out of
some
juice.
point you gotta call it quits because you're not spending enough points on damage.
Yeah, but Pyro always has liked her extremely expensive toys, and it's not surprising that that's filtered into how she plays missiles. But the problem is that you can kind of outskill having suboptimal builds with excessively expensive toys in capital ships on ANS, but you can't outskill literally not have like a finite resource. And that's what missiles
Yep.
are. That's why the fleet editor matters so much more for missiles than anything else, in my opinion. Because you do have a finite resource, unlike
Agreed.
guns.
I spent so much time in the fleet editor trying to maximize the amount of damage I could do with the missiles.
The enemy is securing zone Eclipse.
Bonk. Okay, they're not gonna get that cap on Echo, which is unfortunate. They really need that.
One of the Volkers did take decent amount of damage. but-
ANS is winning the
Yeah.
fight up on Delta, and OSP doesn't
That's
have
true.
any nearby reinforcements really.
rockets. Uh-oh. Chad Fender?
Although this might change the equation.
No, dodge. Almost.
Yeah, Mech's getting a lot better with that. He used to have
He
so many problems dealing with rocket ships, but he's gotten really good at dodging. Not perfect,
Oh, he
obviously.
has his... Yeah, he has his PD zone on area, so that's how it works, where the defenders were tracking the missiles behind it.
Yeah, well, I mean, area is just what it comes stock. You usually don't change off of that unless you're doing it for a specific reason. And defenders will generally prioritize things actually pointed at you, so they're firing
The
stuff
highest
behind you.
priority threats are always the one that have the lowest angle between the missile and your ship.
Oh.
There we go.
Good to know.
Yeah, so the ship will always defend itself first before defending its friends.
Great, now I can stop getting in arguments with people about how that works.
I can actually show you guys the sorting.
That would be great.
That'd
Thank
be
you.
cool.
And then just remember the decoys are ahead of that.
Yeah.
So
Well,
there's a
no,
clear danger.
they decoys are treated as missiles that the player has hit Z on.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's cute. So that's how you get around the Z exploit.
yep, yep,
You say, "Oh, you already did it on all these."
exactly.
Oh man, big stage on that chaff, and these are gonna whoosh now. Oh no, couple get through,
Oh, nice.
but they're going into monitors.
It's like 5 different range buckets, right? For the
Oh, yeah, the Axford is kind of dunzoed.
Yeah, it's been for a while,
Yeah.
but now he's really donezo.
Which leaves these liners as pretty much the only capital ships on the A flank.
Well, monitors are pretty tough. They're like,
Yeah, they're mega beefy.
Yeah, and the
So this is what we've been seeing happen at ANS over and over again on a lot of these matches is the liners and the monitors just kind of ball up and just out meet the ANS team and push.
Yep.
They just can't. They just don't have the raw damage output to deal with them.
Oh, torpedoes.
That you've mentioned
Yeah.
already. Maester has mentioned already that the armor's gonna go down, so I think that'll help a lot with that.
It's not gonna go down that much, maybe like 48 or 50.
I think
ooh, one torpedo hit.
48 is the general consensus around here, for whatever that's worth.
It's the number of people have been talking.
Is there a name for an Ocello that has 450s and a rail turret? Is one of them?
It's bad.
A bad
Build,
choice.
yeah.
Yeah,
A bad
thanks.
idea.
Rymer beat me to it.
More accurately, a hybrid ship. But yeah.
Okay.
So the problem
Well-
with that is you lose efficacy on your buffing modules, and like most turreted weapons want buffing modules.
Or if I just don't buff the rails, are they just not worth using?
Basically, yeah. So with rails, you really need to overwhelm your opponent's DC teams with fires and crits and other things, and just one unbuffed rail turret can't do that. So you'll effectively be doing 0 permanent damage to your opponents.
Oh, I see. So rail cellos are still pretty bad even with all three.
It's kind of complicated. Like double rail Ocello with all 3 turrets and with high buffs can be very effective, but it's extremely risky because you have to sacrifice a lot of your point defense to do so.
Okay, so if you guys look in Pit, I just put in the entire sorting algorithm for missile threats.
Oh, hell,
Thanks, babe.
holy shit, let's go.
VLN's wrecking the
And it's
sprinters.
commented. So the benefit of me posting this is that you guys can see the comments instead of just looking through the assembly like the modders do, which doesn't have comments.
The enemy is
Hey,
securing zone boxer.
hated stuff, right?
It's not my fault. Blame Microsoft.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What?
We get by. We get by.
How does that
What
work?
is it you're using VS?
When Mesa takes a screenshot of his code, it has comments.
Yeah.
When we like look at the game code, it doesn't have comments because when he compiles his code into the game files, it takes away all the comments to compress the game down.
Oh shit, okay.
That's just how programming works. So we
I
don't have
see.
we can't read the comments, so things are sometimes confusing.
Yeah, so C# compiles, and then what the modders are using will basically reverse compile into a semblance of what I wrote, so it's not exactly what I wrote. It's mostly more like a closest guess.
Oh, it's the optimizations, I guess.
Yeah, there's all kinds of flags and stuff and optimizations the compiler makes that are not in my original source.
The enemy secured zone boxer.
ANS is semi coming back. They've gone around the whole map with their sprinters, all their little itty bitty ships, and have gotten a cap advantage. They're neck and neck on points. We should have set the points to 1500 because it's Nix's eye. I always forget to do that.
Can we just ask,
Make that the fucking default.
yeah,
I know Switchback did that on his Canyon server. I don't know how you do that in the server browser.
Do what?
Make maps have different defaults. Points value, like Nix's Eye is a 1500 point map, and Canyon is a 2000 point map. or they should be, but obviously they aren't set that way by default since everything defaults to 1,000.
Oh, okay. Yeah. OSP seems to be going for the caps now.
Arabs out of missiles already.
And I know Switchback set Canyon to default to 2,000 on the 10v10, but I need to ask him to do that for Nix's Eye on the server. Set it to
Mazer.
1,500.
The enemy is securing
How
the
fast?
eclipse.
How fast does this algorithm run?
Last time I profiled it, I think that doing the full... I've done a lot of optimizations on point defenses because aside from sensors, they're the most performance intensive because there's just so much to do and you can't cut corners. So the last time I profiled it, I think it was like about a millisecond or like half. I think it was a half a millisecond per ship.
Okay. And
Oh, here's a life pod. Everybody.
Is this why mines, when I deploy 12,000 points of mines, it cripples the server?
No.
Is it because each one is checking the it, or?
It used to be because... Yeah, I don't remember now at this point. I'm pretty sure that it used to be because the mines were continuously checking, but now I use a collider for it. It's probably just all the physics objects.
Yeah, I remember reading something when I was looking into Unity and why cluster missiles just completely fucking ruin your performance when they get launched. And they've been optimized somewhat since the original implementation, but the short answer is Unity really doesn't like when you spawn objects into a game while the game is running.
Yeah. So all of the projectiles and stuff in the game and missiles are actually pooled. Alex Bay actually ran into this when he was making his Better Battle Report, the one that basically like tag view for Nebulous. He was having an issue where the missiles were just not like easy to record because he realized that I was reusing them because I only spawn things when I have to. So all these plasma rounds that Hunter's firing right now, they're the same plasma rounds he's been firing since the start of the game.
Okay. What?
Yeah, it's called object pooling. It's a pretty common optimization in game development. The cluster missiles that they used for the if the cluster missiles are murdering performance, my guess is that the UNSC developers didn't use the pooling system.
The enemy secured zone
So,
eclipse.
And you can actually the pooling system is actually built so that you can actually pre-initialize it. So you can pre-warm the pool. Things like sensor tracks are pre-warmed with like I think I pre-warmed to like 50 tracks. I also use pooling for a lot of the common resources, so like track handles are pre-warmed to like 500, just so that I can allocate all this memory at the start of the game during the loading process when people don't care that it's slow, and then that basically is all you need for the remainder.
so at the start of the game, does it just spawn in 100 plasma shots and then you allocate
No,
more as it
projectiles
goes
for
through?
guns are not pre-warmed because there's really no need to. You're not spawning more than like
The
maybe
enemy is
one
securing
a
zone
frame.
boxer.
It's things like sensor tracks where in a worst case scenario where like you pick up a missile swarm of 50 missiles all at once, that's 50 objects that have to be created, and then every other ship on
The
your
enemy is
team,
securing zone eclipse.
so let's say you have 20 ships on your team, every single one of those 20 ships is going to get a track handle from the sensor network for that missile. So that's what I'm really bad at math, 1,000 track handles just in a single frame. So that's why I pre-warm that kind of stuff.
Do you have to worry about the caching performance of like hits and misses?
Not at this level. We're not really at that kind of level of optimization.
did you do those
Yet.
things with the OSP update?
Yeah, that was a lot of the performance that I worked on for the OSP, and then a lot of it also came along with dedicated servers.
Okay.
The
That's
enemy
when
secured
dedicated
zone
servers
boxer.
are when I really started
Oh,
to
wait,
dig
what?
into the memory allocation stuff, because
The enemy
you know,
is
it's
securing
fine where
zone dagger.
when you start your client, you play 2 or 3 games. But when you've got a dedicated server that's up for days, weeks at a time, you need to be
The
careful
enemy
about not
secured
like
zone
orphaning
eclipse.
objects. C# has pretty good memory garbage collection, but there's still some cases where stuff can be left hanging around. and I found a lot of that actually in my initial dedicated server tests.
I remember that there were like right after the dedicated servers went up, like every now and then a server would like just kind of crap itself.
Yeah,
So
the
it's really good to see that you fixed that. That's awesome.
essentially every game that was run on the initial dedicated server build, basically every game that was run was adding like 10% of the memory, so
Oh,
they didn't
God.
last very long.
Oh, that memory leak. Hey,
I remember
glad.
Pepsi, you were like going, wait, why is it suddenly running so much smoothly after the update? I'm like, oh yeah, because Major did a bunch of optimization on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's really
Like it
just
was.
an underappreciated thing, but it's so important.
Yeah. No. It was a real thing.
I think a lot of folks who played
Top
pure
games.
peer-to-peer recognize how much of a difference it made. It has
You can just
definitely been
you can just simply get better server hardware than a lot of people's PCs, because Neb is a very CPU bound game. So I run the official dedicated servers on really good hardware, so that we can have good performance more than you'd get on a person's PC, because you don't have to really deal with the rendering at all. Nothing in the game is rendered on the server, obviously. It's just doing CPU work.
I'm also glad that dedicated also runs on Linux. That's pretty great.
Yeah, I hate Windows servers.
Hell yeah.
They're just a nightmare to configure. Like I didn't want to do the Linux build at first, so my first dedicated server test was on a Windows server. It was like this really bad VPS. Just to test it out. It took me like all day to configure it. But then when I was going to do the official servers, I just got 2 Linux boxes and configured each of them in like half an hour. It's just great. Linux is just great for servers.
They're not just gonna randomly update because it's just like, hey, it's update time.
Yeah. Well, Windows Server doesn't really just update without asking you for good reasons.
Oh yeah, I guess their enterprise things aren't as bad as the home user stuff.
That's a crispy axe fruit. Anyway, I'm sorry I totally ran over your cast, Darg.
It's
with
fine.
talking tech details.
That was really cool, and I enjoyed it. And I mean, I do these for fun, and that was very enjoyable and unique. So
Yeah.
fuck it.
And the game was pretty much decided anyway.
Yeah. When we reach the end of the games, it's anything goes.
Yeah, it really is. You should see some of the nonsense that goes on in here.
Yeah, I think OSP pretty much won after Pyro ran out of missiles and the Axfords died, or
Yeah.
when the Axford died.
Yeah.
Well,
Because after that, it's just cleaning up all the screening ships.
well, that's the problem, right? The ANS didn't really have enough meat on the field, so what they did have got chewed up, and all the escorts, they won their fights all over the map. I don't know how much y'all like watched the map once
Right, yeah.
the tech talk started. Like all the little ships won their fights all over the map. But then everything that went to the middle of the map broke up, went to the edges, and decidedly, well, destroyed all those escort ships that had won the scout fight. So ANS was actually in a really strong position right up until they weren't. And that's why we're so close on points. Like 600 points, it's not a bad showing.
Really, Anus needs some rails to at least punish OSP for doing a big death ball like that.
Yeah,
For
ironically, I think if Pyro brought rails and she's like a really, really strong rail player, that would have gone very differently.
That
For sure.
two-barreled rail turret was OP, right?
What?
These poor things are gonna get destroyed. Bonk. Yeah, there goes that. These are good names: Pyrophora, Pyrophobia, and Pyroclast.
We're contesting Zone Atlas. The enemy is securing Zone Atlas.
Shake chips. Alright, Mango.
Surrender frigates.
I spent 3 points on them.
Gee, the most important thing to come out of that game was getting either 1 or 2 pins for the okay, just 1 pin related to the underlying functionality of something in the game that's kind of important to know about. Very
What?
nice. The
Oh my
missile
god, you had a
stuff.
lot of shuttles, sprinters.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Well, I guess y'all were coming up here from the game, but yeah, Anus had an absurd volume of small ships. So
Felt like we were killing
Did I kill
sprinters
like
forever.
15? Because it felt like 15.
It might have been higher.
rather notably,
5, 7, 8,
Uh,
10,
no,
11,
no, the Big Papa Mazer will
12.
never think I'm cool.
Stop simping. No simping allowed.
What? I'm not.
No simping
no,
allowed.
I'm not.
The simp free zone.
Simp for me.
No.
I got my bulk mag shut out on one of these mass drivers from a single 120 AG shell.
what the fuck?
Yeah.
Bulk mag
Yeah.
gaming be like.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, it wasn't. It was one shell that shot it out. It had been hit by a couple other shells, but it's the only thing I really lost.
Yeah. Bulk mags die to a soft breeze.
Why do you have a bulk magazine on your mass driver? You have so many
That's a
big
very-
slots you can put reinforced.
That's a very good question.
yeah,
they should
like,
not have bulk mags.
Yeah,
He's taunting his enemies. Come shoot me! Come shoot me!
It's
Oh
the
my
power
God.
requirements, you know.
Like.
You can get 4
I
on
read
there.
on
You
the
gotta be
not needed
kind
one.
of creative with your power, but you can get 4.
So
gains the
3 is
buffs.
actually gives more rate of fire than 4 actually.
No, I don't think so. You gotta use a couple PCCs, but if you're doing it right, it should be at the
All right.
for a second
That's
shot.
enough about builds. That's enough about builds. I want to hear from Mechanaut. How did that fight feel?
Oh,
In
felt like-
middle.
Well, surprisingly, my sprinters they're resilient to the changes, except for when they come across a C30. The fight for mid, yeah, it was bad. We were trying to keep range for the 450s, and that kept me from getting beams on. And there was just too much there for us to, with only 2 heavies acting as anchor, we just didn't have enough to do anything about that much offensive power coming our way, because we had both of the liner fleets, right? And the monitors, which the monitors sucked, but
There was one liner
And
fleet.
the rails.
All right, we're gonna
And
go
rails.
in order. We're gonna go in order with the players. Warclops. How did you feel about that fight?
Same thing as Mechanaut. I was one of the heavy cruisers that was just backing up, trying to create range. I had backpack missiles. The that was a lot of the Acello at the end. There is what did a lot of the work on that, stopping the missiles. Otherwise, I think we could have donked a couple of those cargo feeders. But other than that, you need a really sturdy front line to put up against the liners and the feeders, and it just feels it's a lot to put them down.
Okay. Persons. I know you weren't exactly in that fight, but you were doing sprinter stuff all over the map. And you did a pretty decent job of some of that and controlling points. Did you feel like that contributed? Did you feel like that did anything?
I mean, I think that I did help somewhat, but at the end of the day, partly due to the shape of the map, I wasn't really able to just get a point and get out. And so if we couldn't hold mid, we couldn't really hold any points, especially because of the presence of the mass drivers, which would just blow up my sprinters. But I think a lot of that is down to just maybe a bad matchup or bad positioning or fleet composition on our part, and a bit of APM stalling on my end.
Okay. Pyro, what were your perspectives on that fight? I noticed you kind of seemed to panic missile into there.
Yeah, there's a death ball coming towards us, so I just like started like shoveling out missiles, like I was like shoveling coal into the engine of a freight train. Like I was trying to keep it going. I ran out of missiles though. Like I was trying to like fire missiles from like different angles to like hit different ships and stuff. I was trying to like take stuff out as fast as I could so that our team could like stop their momentum, but they just had too much. And also like we lost a lot of sprinters trying to cap E, and I think like some of those sprinters might have been able to like I don't know target radar scouts or like even contribute to the gunfight. Uh, I don't know. It was
I
just
got no idea what that was.
Let
I
her finish.
I looked out the window as soon as I came up front, and I did
Bro,
not see
we're going in
what it
order.
was. That was like a freaking.
Be
I think he's
quiet.
just
Yeah, that sounded close.
he doesn't know it is muted. Yeah.
Okay, well now he's server muted.
it's okay.
Continue.
I was just gonna say like I was trying to just stop the inexorable push, but I couldn't. There's just too much stuff. But I did a lot of damage and I got a lot of hits, and I didn't really have any failed strikes, really. Like, I had some trouble killing that one tugboat with my little, like, offset, like, sort of like, flanking frag that has, like, a handful of missiles in it. Like, I think I killed that tugboat, though.
No, I think that one survived.
Wait, really? Ah, dang it.
I don't remember which one it was, but
We don't
I
need a
it was
full
kind of on
play-by-play.
the
Just
A
some
side.
impressions and some experiences and stuff. All right, so series may go.
Yeah.
Tell me, give me your pain.
My pain was existing. There's like the missile tugs with the tiny amount of leave threw off all of my defenders, so I got like a few of my sprinters killed by some of those missile tugs. That was one of the things that hurt me really.
Okay. Hunter, did you just sort of you and Rymark and just kind of foreheaded onto
That
Alpha?
was not Rymark, dude.
No, it wasn't. It was Corbeau, wasn't it? It was Corbeau. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, from the start, the plan was forehead, and when we realized they didn't have a lot of capital ships, it was just like, throw more missiles at me, please. I took nearly 25k worth of damage and was still fully operational across 3 plasma LNs. I had 3 restores in each LN, I think, or 1 restore on one of them. So if they had more guns to follow up on that, I would have had a bad time, but frankly, I was just... It's an moment. Like, I'm gonna A-move into the missiles if you got nothing to follow up with it, so...
So you didn't ever feel threatened by anything on the map?
No, not really.
Okay. Corbeau, who is also Rymark apparently because I'm stupid. Same question.
Easy to confuse. We all play monitors here.
What's up?
Just...
So what was interesting was looking through the damage totals. Only one of my monitor got any damage of note out of the 600 millimeter, because the vast majority of damage I did that game was shooting HE at sprinters and frigates.
Okay.
Which is just an interesting thing to note.
Yeah, it's also been my experience as the same person.
I split to go deal with caps, and my group that went with the death ball got pretty well mauled by missiles, but like, it was fine. We had plenty left over.
Yeah.
Monitor gaming.
I think, just sorry, I just wanted to add on to that. Like, I think really, at first it was a little scary getting hit by the missiles because it's like, okay, fuck, like if we take too much damage, the guns are gonna kill us. But the fact was there were 2 Axfords. Like, once we realized that, I don't know.
There was no gun follow-up, so you weren't really that afraid.
Yeah, exactly. After that realization happened, it's like, okay, well, we can just sit here and absorb the hits, I guess, if we really need to.
All right, Puppy, do you have any thoughts other than mass driver kill?
I think the sprinters actually helped out a lot because I had to spend a lot of time chasing those bastards around, and I couldn't dump as much into the actions as I wanted to. But that's about it.
Okay.
Oh, also bring a reinforced magazine.
Yes. Bring a reinforced magazine when you have plenty of space to do so. That is a good advice. Xenophon, you were doing a lot of the cap gaming for the OSP.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, just go. What are your thoughts on that experience?
I don't know. It feels like OSP has a really big advantage in the cap game right now with cap tugs because
they're so
you know
good.
I feel like each one of those 4 tugs could probably kill three sprinters easily on its own. And I only had and then I had the S2 spam monitor as well, which 5 volleys of 12 missiles that can really mess up a group of sprinters. Plus gun shuttles can beat any sprinter individually unless it has torps. So it's just like it was a lot of work keeping on top of that, obviously, and I was pretty hard pressed there for a while, but it does feel like the sprinters are just they have a really hard time of it nowadays.
What specifically about those tugs made you feel that way?
C30, right, it can outgun any sprinter. Plus, the Weave S2s are really strong. I think probably ANS. If there were more missiles on the ANS sprinter fleet, it would have gone a lot better for them.
Also, those tugs' radar.
We're not done with the players.
That is a good point, though. In that, yeah, like I had ARR Huntress on those. I can see a sprinter coming from like, I don't know, 9 kilometers, 7 kilometers. A sprinter can't see me until like 6.
Okay, yeah, that is kind of a problem.
No, it's not, man. What are you talking about?
Spidicy, what do you have to
Hi.
contribute, my friend?
Nothing really of value. I just played a bog standard fleet.
Okay. All right. It looks like we've got the teams more or less set. I think these are fine. Vote on maps. Teams go into team chats, and I'm gonna close this out. So that was a long one. Wow, only 42 minutes. It's actually not longer than but I could have oh well. I could have stuck around and gotten some perspective from the spectators, but like we've already done this. We already did a lot of that. So I'm not too worried about it. I was getting a ping here. Oh fuck, Mazur's speaking apparently.
Experiment to see how it would work, but I think that increasing the number of rockets. I think Wolf, correct me if I'm wrong, but your original suggestion for the rocket containers was to increase the number to 6, right?
No, I was always for 12. That was my original
Always for 12?
suggestion
Okay.
because the main thing I was going for was backpacks, but then I realized that it would be crap for CLNs, so then I suggested making the 6 a variant.
I think that the boosting of the number of rockets as high as 12 was a little bit too much because I think that we were looking at how effective rocket containers were on main with their existing issues, which were one, their short activation range, so inside defender range, and then also their inability to lead their targets correctly. So the obvious instinctual
And
answer is just give them more rockets and that'll help them penetrate PD and, make up for maybe some leading issues. But with the combination of fixing the lead, increasing the activation range, and adding that many rockets, probably too much.
there's also the making them staggered instead of releasing a single bunch. It
Yes,
really helped.
and
Yeah,
so that
I
helped
would
them
agree.
not get just owned by a single round of flak. So what I'm considering is cutting the 12 container and just leaving it at the 6, so it's got the increased effectiveness that it's got now, without being something that you can just overwhelm a single small ship with. Because right now it's definitely the rocket containers are definitely the small ship killer, whereas the rocket containers are kind of meant to be the OSP hybrid, right? Your submunition weapon, but whereas the Alliance hybrids are an anti-capital weapon mostly, the OSP hybrids have kind of turned out to be an anti-small ship, which is a little weird.
It's because
Go ahead.
It's because point defense is so good now. With those large ships, when you have a collection of them in like a death ball, it's not worth it to send missiles into them. Probably maybe 4 out of 5 times. So a lot of players, especially missileers, find that they'll get a ton of value if they can spec into missiles that they don't have to bring necessarily a lot of, but that they can exchange favorably with enemy like cap fleets and stuff.
Yeah, but with go ahead, Pyro.
I was just gonna say, like, if we're talking about like ANS missiles, I was firing like a bunch of hybrids into a death ball and getting good damage and hits. I think it really depends. Like, I think that your idea, Muser, sounds good. Like, the 6 rocket containers sounds more reasonable. Like, they're cheaper, so you can bring more, but they're not as just like overwhelmingly powerful in a single container as the 12 are. So like I think it can actually be like, PDable with there's like only 6 in a container. Also, I wanted to ask this like all night, but are you aware that AMMs only deal half damage to containers and torps right now? Because their armor penetration
Yeah, because
isn't
there are.
high enough.
Yeah, I did
Yeah.
know that, and I was going to make a note to fix that. Thank you for
Oh,
reminding me.
thank God. Thank you. Okay. It's
Yeah,
like my playstyle like revolves around AMMs, and like when I noticed that, I was like, oh my God, everything I do doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, I'll increase their armor penetration, so that should fix that. Yeah, so what you said, right? I said hybrids are their primary purpose. The reason I designed them in the modular missile update is that they're supposed to penetrate capital, death ball, PD, and kill capitals. That's their 2 primary purposes. With the 12 rocket container, it's too much for a small ship. But with the 6s, you can carry a large number of them on a container liner, and mixing them using the mixing missiles, mixed salvos, you can mix them with penades. And given their longer activation range now that they outrange most PD, that should be enough to make the rocket container useful while not making it overwhelming. So I'm probably going to cut the 12 for the next patch.
So,
That sounds cool.
what pinades did you have in mind for mixing with the 6-shot?
The one I would primarily go with is a decoy container up front or a BSSJ up front.
Well, the BSSJ might work since rockets are a lot smaller than containers, because BSSJ doesn't work for like actual containers. But
Yeah,
decoys,
it works.
For an
It works
actual,
for rockets.
yeah,
It works with
the
rockets.
purpose of the
Okay.
BSSJ would be to mask the rockets, because
Okay.
you can't mask a container.
Right, that's what I'm
and the
saying.
fact that the containers now stage outside of defender range means that they should get through.
And decoys fly a little too slow. Decoys fly a lot slower than rockets do. So I don't
That
think
is
it would
true,
be
yes.
that helpful.
Yeah, I would say the BSSJ is probably your best bet for mixing for penades.
If I could, I just had one last question. Like, this is a bit out of left field, but have you considered making rockets like a warhead type? And the reason, oh, go ahead.
I have, but the problem is, so I told this to the testers a while back, but in my short-sightedness while developing the modular missile update, I didn't make it so that missile components could be locked to factions. So missile bodies can be, but missile components can't be, which means that if I created a rocket warhead, rocket submunition warhead, it would be available to the Alliance as well, which is the reason why the mine containers and the rocket containers are using the legacy missile system.
Gotcha.
Adding the facilities to lock missile components would be a lot of work and also room for a lot of error and break
Yeah.
a lot of missile mods. So it's not something I'm going to do right now.
All right. That sounds good. I was just curious. Like,
Yeah.
I was thinking like, like add a few more rockets for every tick warhead or something, but yeah. But yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
All right. So next thing, plasma. I decreased the point cost of plasma substantially originally at the beginning of this patch cycle because it was kind of always intended to be plasma and rockets and plasma and 100 millimeter were kind of meant to be an inseparable pair. But with plasma being more effective as a primary weapon now rather than something that you use to soften targets up before you lay in with the actual damage stuff, I think it probably should have its cost increased a little bit back to what it was so that you can't stack it nearly as much as you can. I don't see an issue with the current damage per shot, I want to do the thing that Wolf mentioned, which is tying component damage to the fall-off curve for the armor penetration. So combining that with an increased cost should rein it in a little bit.
Excellent.
Cool. Also, have you noticed plasma like cooking the other side of the ship that it was hitting?
Yeah, that's an unfortunate artifact of the way that I do the armor. So the way armor works in Nebulous is that it is a texture mask over top of the ship, and it matches the UV mapping for the textures, which allows me to do pixel accurate armor sampling. The unfortunate downside is that when you don't have UV maps are never perfect, and there's lots of things that are next to each other on the UV map that are not next to each other on the actual geometry of the ship. So large splash areas tend to overlap onto other triangles they're not supposed to go to. I kind of get around this a little bit. The way plasma works is by actually casting a bunch of rays in a circle around the impact point to try to minimize or to try to hit the right triangles, but there's always going to be some overlap.
Okay.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Have you considered, since maybe decreasing the plasma splash size in order to compensate for how good it is now per point? I guess is my question.
The I don't want to decrease the size because the primary issue with the God, I hate the word synergy, but the combination of plasma and 100 and 100 millimeter, if you decrease the splash size too much, then 100 millimeter becomes useless because you're significantly decreasing the odds that any particular 100 millimeter shot is going to hit a plasmid area.
I see.
Gotcha.
Okay. Thank you.
And then so that's plasma, and then the last thing was the monitor, which I think everyone is pretty much in agreement on that its armor should go down. I like to do left-right bounds, so we'll probably reduce it to 48, and if that's too little, then we'll go back up to 50. But it should probably go down a little.
There was a suggestion to do the same thing we did with the battleship, with 48 and 50. I don't know if that's something that's possible.
What do you mean? Oh, you want me to
Bunch of
split it?
different ones.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, like a 50, a 48, and a 46 would be really nice.
Shorten the testing time a little bit.
Yeah, agreed.
So 46, 48, 50 is what you guys want to try?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yeah,
Cool.
that would be awesome. I loved when you did that with the battleship. It was really handy.
I actually forgot that I did that. So yeah, we'll do that for the monitor. That's easy to do. What else did I have to talk about?
Oh, yeah. So, you know the C90?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I'm aware of it.
yeah, with like I don't know what the flavor text will be, but like I hope the flavor text just talks about like how crazy it is for OSP to have a bigger gun than ANS, and like I want to know how Winchester feels about that.
Marshall did write the flavor text already. I just haven't copied it in.
On the topic of the C90, I don't know if anybody else agrees, but I thought we had discussed this maybe last night. But its damage is probably a little low.
It's 200 on
Which
HE right now,
particular
right?
shell? Yeah.
Specifically for the HE, but maybe
Yeah,
on the bomb.
I was
don't
thinking
know.
250. I would like to see 250 personally.
I think it's kind of fine because the main reason for the 600 is to bring the bomb, right? The HE is kind of the backup weapon.
Despite its gigantic bore size, the 600 millimeter is explicitly designed to be an anti-swarm, anti-small weapon. The
Yeah.
only reason I gave it the HE shell is because it's so that you're not basically locked into having only one target that you can shoot at with this big ass gun that you've put
yeah.
your entire fleet into.
It lets you flex into shooting big ships, even though that's not your primary role.
Yeah, and because if you buff that up too much, it's gonna completely override the 450 monitor, which we haven't really seen much of anyways.
I don't think most people have realized you can put the C65 on the monitor yet.
We've seen one
Right?
game with
I
it,
have
and it did
realized
pretty
that.
good.
So what I'm looking forward to like testing is like a double drived C65 monitor, because if you can put two Qi drives in a monitor and like orbit dodge with it, you could probably like dual Axfords and Solomons really well, because they wouldn't be able to hit you too well because you're dodging with like two Qi drives, and then like you can hit the Axford or Solomon because they're Axfords and Solomons and they're huge. So yeah, I'm interested to see if orbit dodging C65 monitors are as powerful as I think they are. I'm honestly kind of scared of how powerful they could be. It reminds me of back when Acellos could orbit dodge really well.
Back to the frigate swarms.
Yeah,
Although
right.
the I would say the primary counter for monitors is probably hybrids, so they're not really going to be vulnerable to orbit dodging.
Yeah.
All right. One thing I wanted to pull everybody on is there's been a lot of talk in the tester channels about the EWR and the LRT and whether they need a buff or not, particularly with regards to the LRT's ability to track frigates out to a little bit further range. I wanted
So-
to see what people think of that.
So my take on this is that, obviously something's got to be done about the frigates. If you buff the LRT's sensitivity, it's not really going to ruin much for any of the other ANS fleets. So, far as I see it, it's a pretty low collateral damage buff that should, help to make frigs a lot more manageable.
Well, I would say that if you buff the sensitivity of the LRT, it would make it even harder for like, rail DDs to like counter battery mash drivers if they're like, within the LRT's range, because like, unless you're like playing like super, backline 20 kilometers away. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
Personally, I don't believe that that's really, I don't know, the number of times that you're ever killing rail DDs, you're not really using an LRT track to kill them. It's
You're
from something else
also
that's actually giving a proper lock.
getting sig bloomed to fuck.
The only thing I don't like
I
is
don't think
that I
sensitivity
have
affects
Prowler
that.
sprinters that get spotted by LRTs from pretty far, but I haven't tried using it from the other side.
Also,
Prowler-
okay.
Prowler sprinters are something that a number of people already complain about, to be honest, like the radarless Prowler sprinters with Bullseye. So I don't personally see a problem with that getting nerfed either. I think that's just kind of a positioning thing, and like small ships in general, a lot of people really seem to complain about their invisibility problems. So buffing the R400, especially with the new modules spots that it's got, having double ARR, double TC, even triple TC, like that's going to give you a good track. And if you increase its sensitivity, then it will allow ships to actually hit them. If there's like a 2-kilometer band or something where you can actually see the frigates or the corvettes before they get to be able to jam the R400, that would probably be optimal.
Buffing up.
Yeah, but hold.
So the hang up, since you mentioned it, the hang up is actually a tough one. There's a bug that I've got to solve in the hang up in order to make it more effective, which is probably what most people are actually seeing. It's not an issue with its power level. It's an issue with with how the system works, and it's a fundamental issue with how the communications network works. And basically, it's going to require me to rewrite that part of the game in order to fix it. And it's a pretty large task. I don't know if it's going to make it into this patch, but I'm going to try.
Ooh, yeah, the hang up doors are ready.
On the
Also, just real quick on the stealth small ships, I will say that in my experience, the spyglass usually picks up the small ship about 1.5 to sometimes 2 kilometers before the small ship picks up the spyglass prowler. It's not a very large gap already between what you can and what you can't see. The issue of, like, I would say a lot of the times is that it's even if you have even if you don't have the prowler, if you go for like whiplashes, your radar cross section isn't significantly higher than if you did have the prowler, such that that distance equation makes much of a difference.
So the small radarless ships are actually good.
I'm saying like the small radarless ships that can move quickly have about the same radar cross section as like a prowler frigate with a spyglass. So
no.
That's not
a
correct.
prowler corvette without a radar, it has a smaller signature than a radared sprinter.
if you
frigate.
angle it right, you can get the prowler frigate down to 996, I think. Is the
Right, but
smallest radar cross section.
Okay, but you have to know
ignoring angling though. That's
where
not.
a ship
But I'm
is.
not. But I'm not, right? I'm saying like there should be like what would be nice is if there was a measure of on purposeness that was required in order to achieve that stealth. Right?
But you
Like
can't see where your opponent's radars are unless you have a shitload of eland.
That's an unwinnable information game.
Yeah.
Like small ships are just a Gordian nut. Like
So
but
My other thought about that is are we do we hate frig blobs so much we're just completely nerfing them into the ground? It's because like some of the targeting, the long range and EWAR, I haven't spoken about much this the test channels, but I'll say it here. It's like ANS has already got a app game that's kind of iffy. So if we completely
Well, this is the
nerf
reason.
small
This is the reason I posed the question, because my goal here is not to nerf the frig blob, because nerfing the frig blob nerfs the frigate itself, and the frigate is a foundational ship for the alliance. It's like
Yes.
your do everything utility ship and missile ship. So nerfing the frigate would completely destroy AN players. What I wanted to do in this patch is give the OSP tools to counter larger numbers of them. That's the bombshell primarily. And
Yeah.
what I was posing as a question, since it has been brought up by a few people, is buffing the LRT necessary as well? And right now I'm not too sure on it, because with all the slots that the monitor has, you can buff it quite a bit with modules that are already in the game from its base stats.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also the bombshell has a unique feature that allows you to position fire. And it will blow up at the position that you roughly at the position that you indicated. So I'm not entirely sure that it's necessary.
I will say, as like the person who brought this up in the first place, like it's certainly less necessary now because the bombshell exists, which I did not anticipate when making the suggestion. And the concern now is like if the OSP team doesn't bring any bombshells, are they just completely screwed, right? And that's why I think it might still be a good idea to do, but it's definitely not required.
So if I could just actually latch onto that point too, Wolf, the fact that the monitor is going up in armor alone as well is also significantly nerfing the primary damage output of the frig blobs, which was 120. There's a lot of concern from people that nerfing the armor on MNs is going to make it so 250 is more effective against it, but I don't think that's a problem. That is not where the damage output is coming from on frig blobs anyways. The only time you were bringing 250s was to actually finish the job. The 120s were the ones that were doing the real damage. So either way, monitors are going to be more resistant to them, plus the artillery shells. So maybe you're right. Maybe buffing R400 is unnecessary at this point.
And we got Huntress Burn.
For the record, I like small ships. I think they're cool. Like I was just saying, it's like trying to balance small ships is like a Gordian knot because it's also complicated. But
Right.
yeah, like as for the LRT, I honestly like I'm kind of there too, where I'm not really sure it needs a buff, and that's just speaking as someone who uses LRTs in a lot of my OSP fleets, like my mass driver fleet, for instance. Also, like if you put like one ARR on the Bloodhound, it already like maxes out the sensitivity because sensitivity like hits like a soft cap at like -40 DPM, and like buffing the sensitivity past that point doesn't really do anything. And so like one ARR already maxes out the sensitivity, so a sensitivity buff isn't even going to do what you want it to do.
Can I mention something? So the proposed the thing that I propose and that we've been generally debating is not to change the sensitivity, but to change the aperture size from 70 to 100. And the radar calc isn't perfect, but gaming this out in the radar calc essentially means that you'll pick up a frigate. Currently, LRT picks it up at 11.5 kilometers. bumping the aperture size from 70 to 100 means it'll pick it up at 12.5 kilometers, and this is no adaptive.
So for those who aren't aware, there are about 5 different levers that I can use to tune sensors. Gain and aperture size work together by multiplying, but the difference is that aperture size allows the radar to pick up more returned energy without being more vulnerable to jamming. Only gain is multiplied by jamming power. So increasing the gain on a sensor will make it be able to be jammed easier. And
Okay.
increasing aperture while also making it be able to see things that are further away and smaller. So that one gives you a benefit, but it also has a downside, whereas aperture is mostly just upside.
Okay. So my thoughts on this is I think having the bombshell as and the monitor as the only tool in your toolkit to really be effective against Frig Blob is it just gives me a bad vibe, I guess. I feel like buffing the LRT would give a tool for people who don't want to play monitors. That's basically my take.
I
And
have
also, no, and also, real quick, um, the that range gap where now you're 1,000 meters past the spyglass just gives like OSP so much of a sensor just advantage. It's like there's a range there that you can play, and like that just feels like a recipe for a fight where they can see you, you can't see them, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Elant.
Yeah.
I'd like to
Yeah.
mention that with the addition of the slots to the monitor, it's for monitors is when you want the good censorship, and the fact that you can now put an AAR on it with TCs and get two TCs and one AAR or ARR, that's basically an LRT buff. The only area that it's not a buff is for tugs. And I also want to mention that EWR tracks like 2ARR EWR is perfectly fine for bombs. Like it works even with the like 400 or 500 meter variants. You still
Yeah,
get
I think what
hits.
people are arguing, however, is not. So there's lots of ways that you can use the bombshells, but the argument that people are making is, well, if you didn't bring bombshells, then that 2ARR EWR track doesn't actually benefit you because no other weapon system the OSP has would be useful against that track. You can't shoot on that TQ.
True, but I think the fact that you now have the option for the ARR 2TC monitor enables a lot of. I don't know how much.
I agree. I
Specifically,
agree
how
that,
much range
that
that
it's an
boosted.
indirect buff for these two sensor types, and I'm kind of confused why I have not. I think that the monitor may supplant the tug in some cases as the premier long-range radar ship for the OSP, and I'm surprised that I haven't seen too many of those builds. I think I've only seen it once so far in any of the testing games I've watched. But I think that if you want a cheap long-range sensor, you bring a tug, and if you want an expensive Gucci long-range sensor, you bring a monitor.
Yeah, kind of like destroyers are to frigates and being censorships. Like you can bring an intel on a destroyer. Right?
Yeah. So on that note, I had an idea. What if you like made it attached to a buff module, like with if monitors are the like ritzy radar suite hole that you can take, then what if there was like a buff module that you could put in, like, say a monitor to make the LRT able to see frigs a lot better, like make the ARR or some other buff module, like maybe like a 3x3 buff module, buff the radiated power of like a radar. So then you have a stronger radar with more radiated power tied to a buff module that only fits in like a monitor or a bulk
Whoa.
trader.
Use the giant
the giant
compartments for
compartment
that
slot.
if you want. Yeah, if you want to lock it.
Maybe. Yeah, I have to think on that one. All right, I'm gonna stop holding you guys up from getting into a game because I need to get to sleep. Also, I have to wake up in like 6 hours.
Thanks, Mister.
So I hope you guys
I'll bring up one quick thing before you go, because I saw people mentioning on chat. Okay, can we get a HP reduction for rockets down to 8 HP and
we already
increase
talked about
their
rocket
armor? Are you
containers.
already talking
Yeah,
about
we
it?
are
Okay.
talking about rockets.
No, no. We did not. We talked about rocket containers. We did not talk about this. So Rymark has been harping on this for a long time. Well, not a long time, but recently we've all really wanted this. So can rockets be reduced in HP to 8, and can they have their armor increased to 2 centimeters? This would mean there's
Yeah, I
no
heard you talk
difference.
about
There's
this.
no difference in flak performance against rockets, but Auroras would now one-shot them.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, we've actually
What's their armor at currently? I can't remember.
I don't know, but it's not. not
15 or 6. So increasing. Oh, okay, I get it. That's why you're saying reduce the HP. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I can do that.
Nice.
Yeah, we've talked about that a couple times, trying to make figuring out some way to make Auroras good against rockets. So I'm glad that there's
They're
a
already good
solution to
against
that.
rockets.
Not
Or-
really.
well,
Not
Auroras
really.
are-
No. They're okay, but they're not amazing.
For the record,
Puppy,
for credit,
Puppy, what if they were better against rockets?
I mean, that's fine with me.
that idea originated from Gamma. For credit.
Oh, Gamma? I'll have to give her a high five. That's interesting.
All right, I need to go now. I hope you guys are going to have a good night. Thank you
Good
for giving
night.
your feedback. I'm going to
Thank
do
you,
my
sir.
best to get this patch together tomorrow when I'm home from work.
Thank you for your time.
At your
Thank you
own
very
pace,
much.
Thank
man.
you.
Good night.
Good work.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
All right, it is also my bedtime. Who wants my spot in the game?
All right, are we ready for 80% of the people in this call to leave immediately because the dev is no longer here for them to send for?
Even if 80% of the people leave, you could still get a game going.
It's midnight over here. Okay.
Yeah, same here.
Let's see. Well, I'm still down to play. I'm gonna
Which
be right
server
back.
is it?
Testulous calls
Yeah,
in.
yeah. I'm in the
I got
lobby.
it live stream. The password is guest.
I feel really ambivalent about the radar thing. I couldn't find a good moment to say anything. Because I totally agree that having only one hull vector for countering frigates is not a good state for the game.
Yeah.
But I'm also not sure. I don't know that the radar is the angle I would want to take as the alternative.
Nebulous is not a game where one option is good enough.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, the big concern a lot of people have with the radars being if you buff the long range capability of OSP, like sensor capability, then there will be a disproportionate advantage. Could also just be fixed by a simultaneous buff of the spyglass. Just throwing that out there.
OSP already has a pretty big advantage in long range sensor capability.
Yeah, like the EWR gives you the detection. Increasing the LRT isn't going to do that much because that's for fireable tracks. And now I can have a fireable track on a battleship at 13 kilometers instead of 11. Well, great. Nothing can make use of that except for the mass driver, which could already get decent lands with a lower quality track anyways.
To be fair, it's also that's implying that the track is at the same range as the thing doing the firing. But yeah.
Yeah, slot
True.
open on OSP.
Alright, anyways, I gotta close out this. This has been going for an hour. I'll be back in a second. Everybody who's in lobby, go into your team chats. Well, there was a very rare experience. Very rare experience indeed. That was Master Lud talking a lot about the game, bounce direction, and things of that nature. I don't. My brain's a little fried. That was long. That was cool. It was a lot of fun. I'm gonna have to do something special for this one. Big thanks to him for coming out and being so open about all the stuff that's going on behind the scenes and in the game with us. Because it's always nice to know, right, that your efforts are appreciated. I mean, we have a lot of fun testing, but we also care a lot about what the direction the game goes in. That drives a lot of us to do what we do. And so it's nice to have that feedback appreciated. I'll see you in the battle space, viewer. Good night.